Hey y'all, just wanted to let you know up front that this video will contain spoilers for Marvel's Eternals. If you have not seen the movie and want to remain unspoiled, I'd suggest that you stop watching this video now because I'm about to spoil the hell out of this movie. Okay? Okay. Eternals is an average movie with a notable amount of thematic depth. While this Marvel Cinematic Universe adventure is an overly long and poorly paced borefest at times, the movie presents a lot of food for thought with explicit allegorical themes regarding the abortion debate, trans-coded characters, and bodily autonomy, which are all themes that give this film merit. Because truly, despite how Eternals' overall quality is suspect, the movie does have narrative layers and thematic teeth. It has a cohesive message imbuing this film with purpose and delivers a cinematic value that transcends its notable imperfections. It has themes that give potential viewers a reason to watch it. Indeed, Eternals' pathos and ethos has a lot of narrative and thematic messaging, so much so that I need to spoil the whole film so that I can explain Eternals' themes in a concise, informative, and meaningful way in order to do the film and its subject matter justice. And to start, let's first discuss the film's plot twist, because Eternals has two of them. The first comes about halfway through the movie, where the celestial god Arishem reveals that he planted seeds in many planets across the universe that eventually hatched into new baby celestials. And to be born, the celestial gods use a large life force on these planets in order to fuel their birth, and begin a process known as the emergence, a process that would destroy the whole planet and all life on it. This takes us to the Deviants. The Deviants were created by Arishem in order to cull unintelligent apex predators on planets across the galaxy so that life could become more bountiful on every planet. But unfortunately, the Deviants did too good of a job when they started attacking intelligent life like the humans as well. Hence why Arishem artificially created the Eternals in order to combat the Deviants so that they could protect the humans, not because they were special, but so that they could allow humanity to advance and evolve naturally to where a new celestial god could eventually be formed, and ultimately destroying the planet. Making matters worse, prior to the reveal, most of the Eternals did not know that their true purpose was to ensure humanity's destruction, and to say that this twist merely hit them hard is an understatement. If anything, this narrative reveal shakes this superhero team to its very core. They question their own sense of humanity and their own morality as they realize that their role in the universe is to be the harbinger of doom, and that their very existence and purpose was a lie. And from there, the Eternals more or less form sides where they either reject their prior demanded duty and plan to kill the newborn celestial and save Earth, or they work to support the emergence, which would ensure the Earth's destruction. This leads into the movie's second twist, which involves Ajax's death. As a character, Ajax was originally the leader of the Eternals and was the only one of them who originally knew Arishem's plans from the beginning. And when the rest of the Eternals found her dead earlier on in the film, they believed that she had been killed by the Deviants, but this was a lie. Ajax was actually murdered by the Superman-style Eternal Icarus. See, Ajax told Icarus of the Eternals' true purpose centuries earlier, and she planned on ensuring Earth's and humanity's demise without hesitation herself. But 7 days before the emergence would inevitably destroy Earth, Ajax got cold feet. She had come to care about humanity and wanted to save them by regrouping the separated Eternals and form a plan of action. But her ambitions came up short because Icarus was loyal to a fault and didn't desire to deviate from the mission. And due to Icarus's lawful good nature, he kills Ajax and turns out to be the movie's big bad here. He is ultimately the villain. Okay, so a lot of things happen here in this film, but some of you might be wondering what it all means in terms of what the point of the movie is. And honestly, there are two major points here. The first of them being the movie questions whether or not it is justified to stop the birth of a life if it means saving the lives of many others. It questions whether or not that birth takes precedence over other people who would be affected by it, which probably sounds like an on-the-nose abortion debate allegory, because honestly, the movie ultimately is an on-the-nose abortion allegory. How damn relatable, and an allegory that falls on the side of pro-choice, i.e. the correct side. Cry about it if you don't like that. See, when the movie's big twist regarding how celestial birth destroys a planet and all the life on it is revealed, the Eternals pick sides. One the pro-save humanity from destruction side, and the other the pro-end all life on Earth side. And the movie obviously portrays the pro-save humanity side of the Eternals as being morally in the right, because obviously, and that the correct thing for the Eternals Eternals to do is to save humanity by ending the potential newborn Celestial's life rather than let it destroy Earth and be born, because humanity deserves to live. Oddly enough, this plot point reflects pro-choice viewpoints in real life. After all, potential pregnant mothers, trans men, and assigned female at birth non-binary folks don't deserve to have their lives upended just because they accidentally got pregnant, or if their health will be affected by the pregnancy, or if the pregnancy was caused by sexual assault, or be affected by any other reason that's no one else's business. And similar to these folks, humanity in the Eternals is like those potentially pregnant people in the sense that their life shouldn't necessarily be impeded or harmed by a potential birth. Their lives take precedence here. Furthermore, Eternals reflects the ideological disparity between the pro-choice and the pro-life sides. See, a plurality of Americans are in favor of legal abortion in all or most cases rather than the other way around, and the Eternals reflects this by how most of the Eternals want to abort the celestial fetus and save humanity. But unfortunately, the oppositional forced celestial birth side is very powerful. Despite being in the distinct ideological minority, the forced pro-celestial birth side in the Eternals holds incredible sway and features Icarus and Sprite, two of the most powerful members of the Eternals, Icarus in particular, who is a lawful good type character who is a stickler for the rules. And this is so much like the conservative quote-unquote pro-life viewpoint in real life. They are a powerful political influence despite being a notable ideological minority, which views abortion as wrong because to them, life begins at conception, meaning that any form of abortion, no matter for what reason, is actively killing a life. And thus, to them at least, abortion is wrong in either most or all instances. And yes, I get that I'm paraphrasing a bit here because like all movements, there are ideological differences between all the various people that sum up a political demographic like the pro-life movement, but the idea that abortion is literally killing a baby is a fairly universal belief among most pro-life supporters. It is pervasive. And with that, there's a lot of parallels between Icarus and the wrong-headed conservative beliefs on this issue. There's a lot of similarities, because whether we are discussing Icarus's beliefs or the pro-life movement, these forced birth viewpoints are unpopular compared to the pro-choice alternatives. Yet, the pro-life movement and Icarus's intent to force the Earth to have a celestial baby have clear, powerful backing that endangers what is actually morally just. The fact that it is morally reprehensible to make someone or a planet, in Eternal's case, be pregnant and give birth against their will, especially when that said birth endangers those birthing the actual baby. And with that, it is fairly clear what is actually morally righteous here. It is clear what side is actually in the right. Additionally, Eternals also reflects another ideological viewpoint of the abortion debate, by which I mean the side that is quote-unquote neutral. See, when the Eternals all pick their sides in this ideological conflict, the character of Kingo makes a distinction by refusing to take a side. While his views more or less align with Icarus's pro-birth side, Kingo refuses to use his viewpoint as justification to fight against the other Eternals. He'd rather sit on the sidelines, and this is important to note because throughout the film, he presents himself as a superhero. Despite how he is an ego-driven Bollywood movie star, he presents himself as an ally to the human race and even has a human friend that he confides in. But when it is revealed that the Eternals' entire purpose is to ensure the destruction of the planet via planetary birth, he cowardly avoids taking sides, even though he once portrayed himself as a superhero, even though he has a human friend whose life will end if the celestial fetus inside Earth is born. This is an accurate depiction of liberal and even progressive men who play the centrist card in the abortion debate. Sure, these anti-choice men might posture themselves as being progressive and allies of leftist causes, but when it comes to the abortion debate, these once leftist or liberal allies tap out and abandon past, present, and future pregnant folks considering abortion that they both know or have never met, even though these pregnant folks that are considering abortion need all the supports they can get. Yet these supposed progressives and liberals throw these folks to the wolves. Such is their supposed allyship. And Kingo is the same. He was more than happy to take praise as a superhero, but when he was actually needed to be heroic and do the right thing, he drops the ball. It is shameful. So yes, Eternals has a lot to say about the abortion debate, but that's also not the only interesting theme theme that the story has going for it. See, another storytelling intricacy involves the character of Sprite, no relation, who leads a burdensome existence. While she is an immortal Eternal with her own superpowers and capabilities, she's different from her compatriots in that she is stuck in the body of a child, something that fills Sprite with incredible angst because despite her age as an immortal being, she's still only seen as a kid, meaning that for her entire existence she is relegated to the kids' table and forbidden to do adult things, primarily falling in love with Icarus because she has the hots for him even though he doesn't reciprocate, because, you know, Sprite looks like a little girl. In other words, she is trapped in a body that does not reflect her inner self, a body that prevents her from living authentically. This narrative has a lot of thematic parallels to the transgender experience, and I say that because I'm speaking as a transgender woman. Hell, on a base level, Eternals is transcoded, even if this was intentional or unintentional on the filmmaker's parts. After all, the reveal that the Eternals are just artificial beings who lived a fake existence is trans enough on its own level. See some of my past videos about similar subject matter. But Sprite's characterization really brings this queer theme full circle, mostly because trans people can relate to Sprite. After all, before transition, we trans people have bodies and appearances that don't reflect who we really are on the inside, and we are socially forbidden from certain roles that align with our true selves, like existing in spaces that align with our gender identity or wearing certain clothes. And Sprite reflects this to a T. Age-wise, she is an adult woman who is cursed to appear in a way that doesn't authentically represent her personage, which is a pain that many of us in the trans community can relate to, because honestly, that's just very queer. It's very trans. With that being said though, Sprite's transcoded characterization does unfortunately have some drawbacks, mostly because I don't like how Sprite teams up with Icarus at the end of the movie, i.e. the bad guy. Like, she represents trans people, and the fact that she uses her powers to aid the side destroying the planet, all because of her own selfish desire to be respected by Icarus, doesn't reflect well on the trans community. And while sure I think that transcoded characters are allowed to have villainous qualities, this wasn't the best time and place for it. She is the lone trans allegorical character in this film, and her teaming up with the movie's big bad rubbed me the wrong way, sadly. And even though Sprite's story certainly reflects a small contingent of trans people who actually team up with other repressive conservative movements in order to gain social stature, it is a thing, having the one transcoded character be an antagonist isn't optimal storytelling in 2021, because historically speaking, trans people or trans-adjacent folks have either been villainized or have been the subject of bad comedic ridicule in film for a long time. Silence of the Lambs, Psycho, The Hangover Part 2s, and Zoolander 2 are all examples of films with some really bad trans representation over the decades. This honestly sucks, mostly because no marginalized group of people like the trans community should ever have to see people like ourselves almost exclusively be the bad guys in fiction, let alone a Marvel movie in 2021, though we have made some positive strides in this department this year. Hell, we deserve to have our own trans Marvel movie superhero protagonists that stand up for what is morally right. Whether transcoded or explicit, we deserve to have our own name brand Marvel heroes. But Eternals and the character of Sprite don't follow through here. She is the lone, clearly transcoded character in Eternals, and the fact that she selfishly teams up with the villainous Icarus in the end is not a very flattering portrayal of people like myself, even though Sprite is transcoded rather than explicitly trans in the text. She just does not reflect well on people like me in the end. Still, Sprite's character does end up having enough positive qualities that overcome these issues. In fact, the film's conclusion makes her character relatable again. Due to how the character of Cersei is temporarily wielding a bunch of cosmic space magic at the end of the film, Sprite is offered a choice. A choice with a drawback where she can either remain an Eternal, but never age, or she can become a human person, but would lose her immortality and age and die like the rest of us. And to Sprite's credit, she accepts this choice. She accepts the cost it takes to finally live her true life, and despite giving up her immortality, for her, the decision was obvious. This plot point very much reflects trans people deciding whether or not we want to transition in real life. For many trans people, we jump at the opportunity to start HRT or have some surgeries in order to become our true and actual selves, even though there might be consequences. Because for sure, with these surgeries and HRT, our bodies become more aligned with our identities. Many of us do lose things like the ability to have kids, which definitely sucks to give up. But for a lot of us, it's an easy choice to make because in order to fully live, we need to live authentically as the people we truly are, meaning that starting HRT and having these surgeries is a no-brainer for us. And this is just like Sprite, because while immortality might be a cool thing, Sprite's living as her authentic self is the more viable option. This brings Eternal's themes of bodily autonomy full circle. See, Sprite was faced with a tough decision regarding whether or not she wanted to remain immortal or become a human, but in the end, it was her decision to make and no one else's. It was her body, her choice. She had autonomy over her own personhood. And honestly, this really complements the core narrative's aforementioned abortion debate allegory and how the desires of pregnant people should have agency over that of a fetus. That's similar to Sprite in regards to her personage, or humanity deserving a choice over whether or not to abort a celestial fetus from destroying the planet. Those carrying the baby deserve to have a choice over what's happening to their own body, and that anyone interfering with that decision is morally reprehensible, because pregnant people are the only ones who should be able to make a decision regarding abortion, and it is their decision alone. So with that was the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, and leave a comment telling me what you think about Eternals and these themes. Also, please consider contributing to my Patreon page. The link is in the description. And speaking of Patreon, I just want to thank my patrons, especially my high tier ones, and David, Samantha, Devlin, Mom, and Morgan. Thank you so much for supporting what I do. Love y'all.